love hiking in the mountains. I always make it a point to take at least one day out of the week to go hiking. The sights and sounds of the outdoors never fail to put my mind at ease, but I never thought that one day I would see something that would shake me to my core. It was a sunny afternoon, and I had decided to take a solo hike in a remote part of the mountain range. This part of the mountain wasn't used by most people because it was so narrow compared to the main trail, which was another reason why I like going through this way. As I was walking along the narrow trail, enjoying the peace and quiet of nature, I saw a young woman coming down the trail, walking towards me. She was dressed in hiking gear. I was a bit surprised to see another hiker come through this way, as most people don't know about this trail. As she was getting closer, I began to focus on her face, waiting for our eyes to meet so I could acknowledge her, something a lot of hikers do when they meet a fellow hiker on the trail, especially if they're solo hiking. But as we approached each other, she didn't even bother to look in my direction. Instead, her focus was just straight ahead. She had this blank stare on her face. Her eyes had no expression in them whatsoever. I kept staring at her, waiting for her to look at me, but she just looked straight ahead, not even noticing I was there. I found it very strange. I said to myself, well, maybe she's just really deep in thought. So I didn't make a big deal out of it and kept on walking. But it just gave me this strange feeling about her. After walking a few more steps, I looked back at her and I could still see her going down the trail, head forward. I got a chill thinking about the blank expression on her face, then brushed it off and continued on my way. As I got to the summit of the mountain, I was exhausted, but the view from the top made it all worthwhile. This is what I love about hiking. It's like a high that you get after working out at the gym. Sure, you're tired, but you feel good. After resting, I started my way down the mountain. As I got back to the start of the trail, I made my way back to my car in the parking lot. There were a few cars by this time. A big SUV was parked right next to me when I first arrived, and now that it was gone, I could see the pole that it was covering, and on it was a missing person poster. I'm always intrigued whenever I see posters like this, so I walked up to it to see who the missing person was. When I looked at the picture, I felt a chill run down my spine. The missing person was the girl who I saw on the trail earlier. I was confident it was her. She completely fit the description. Blonde hair, green eyes, 5'8" in height. The only difference was she was smiling in the photo, a far comparison from the emotionless face that I met on the trail. According to the details, she was last seen hiking on this trail 3 weeks ago. I took a picture of the poster on my phone and got into my car quickly. I drove down to the nearest police station and explained to the police officer that I came across this missing person on my hike earlier that day. She said that the rescue team had been searching for the past few weeks with no luck. I gave her the coordinates of where I saw her, and she said she would let the rescue team know and have them search that area. A couple of days went by, and I came across a segment on our local news channel stating that the missing hiker was found dead. According to the report, she had passed away due to a broken neck and had been lying dead in a heavily brushed area for 3 weeks. The investigators believe that the hiker tried to take a shortcut going down the mountain, losing her footing, and fell off a cliff. She most likely died on impact. I felt that same chill run down my spine the day I saw the missing person poster, realizing that the hiker I came across that day was a ghost. I couldn't shake off the image of the ghost hiker. I still remember that blank stare she gave off so vividly. It freaked me out that I came across an actual ghost. I couldn't eat or sleep properly that whole week. I just couldn't figure out how and why she appeared to me. I told all my friends about what happened to me on the trail, and while their reactions were surprised and amazed, it was bothering for me for the most part. After a while, I came to the conclusion that the missing girl had appeared to me to ask for help, to tell someone where she was located. And even though it was a terrifying experience, I was grateful that I had been there to help put her spirit to rest and to give closure to her loved ones who were searching for her. It was a chilly night in October, and I was out on the trail by myself on one of my night hikes that I go on whenever I feel like clearing my mind. People think I'm crazy when I tell them I go hiking alone at night. They ask if I ever get scared of running into ghosts, wild animals, or bad people. First of all, I don't believe in ghosts. I've never had a paranormal experience, and I'm pretty sure I never will. Second, the only wild animals I encounter here are deers and coyotes. Both are more scared of us than we are of them. Lastly, most people wouldn't be crazy enough to hike at night, which is exactly why I do it. I love having the trail all to myself. I guess I'm antisocial like that. The trail I frequent goes around a forest. I've been on that trail so many times, I can pretty much navigate through it with no phone signal or map to guide me. The only thing I had was a small flashlight that illuminated the path ahead. It was a full moon that night, so my surroundings were pretty well lit. Halfway through the trail, I was getting bored and wanted to stay out more. The full moon provided the perfect amount of light to keep exploring, so I decided to get off the path and walk into the woods. The trees became thicker, and the silence around me grew deafening. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears, and the rustling of leaves under my feet sounded like thunder. Suddenly, I saw a faint glow in the distance, and my heart sank. I know most people would turn back at this point, especially if they were alone at night, but I was feeling ballsy, and curiosity got the best of me. As I approached the source of light, I realized I had stumbled upon a clearing. In the middle of the clearing, there was a circle of stones arranged in a perfect circle, with candles burning on each one. The candles flickered in the cold wind, casting eerie shadows on the surrounding trees. At first, I thought it was just some campers building a campsite, which is strange because that forest is off limits to camping and building fires. But as I got closer, I could see symbols etched into the stones, and then a giant pentagram in the middle of the circle. My blood ran cold. It was a satanic ritual, and I was standing right next to it. What really shocked me was seeing a dead animal in the middle of the pentagram. I couldn't tell if it was a dog or a goat because it was covered in blood. It was something of that size. At that point, all I knew is I had to book it out of there. I turned around to leave, but then a group of 4 or 5 hooded figures emerged from the darkness, trying to surround me. This is when my adrenaline kicked in, and I ran as fast as I could out of there. I could hear their angry shouts behind me, and I knew they were chasing me. The full moon sure helped as I was able to navigate through the woods and kept running. I finally reached the edge of the forest. I emerged from the woods, gasping for air, and I saw the lights of an approaching car. I had never been so relieved in my life. I ran to the middle of the road, hands in the air, not caring if the driver thought I was crazy. I looked back at the forest, and I saw the hooded figures disappearing back into the darkness. I told the driver I was being chased by a group of men and to call the police. A cop car arrived soon after, along with a park ranger patrol. I told them a group of Satanists chased after me after I came across their unholy ritual. I also told them about the dead animal. They asked me for the location and said they would go and check it out. I never got an update on what happened that night, if they were able to catch anyone, or if they were able to locate the dead animal on the giant pentagram in the middle of the forest. The police probably thought I was some punk kid playing tricks on them, or since nobody was hurt, that they didn't even bother looking. After further research, I found that there's a satanic calendar, and these types of rituals happen on certain nights of the year. I guess I was unlucky enough to come across one during my hike. There's no telling what those guys would have done to me if they caught me. I vowed never again to venture into the woods alone at night. I shivered as I looked around the dark forest that lay before me. It was supposed to be a quick hiking trip, just a few hours. But I had gotten lost, and now the sun was beginning to set and the noises of the night were commencing. The sounds of crickets and night birds were filling the sky, a reminder that I was now in the danger of the night. Having no signal on my phone gave me the feeling of total isolation. I was about to have a panic attack, but the better of me forced myself to fight back the feelings of fear and to focus on just getting out of there. My feet were sore and blistered. All I had on was a thin field jacket, a t-shirt, and some hiking pants. I knew what I had on wasn't going to keep me warm through the night. I had to try to find my way back to the trail, but it was almost impossible to do in the dark, and I had only managed to get deeper into the woods. And then it happened. I was walking along a narrow path when suddenly the ground beneath me gave way, and I found myself falling. I tumbled down a steep embankment, hitting every rock and tree on the way down. I landed in a heap at the bottom, moaning in pain. I could feel my ankle throbbing, and I knew I had twisted it badly. For a moment, I lay there, dazed and confused, trying to figure out what happened and what to do. But then I realized the gravity of my situation. I was injured, lost, and alone in the middle of nowhere. Night was falling, and the forest was getting darker and eerier by the minute. I knew I had to act fast if I wanted to survive. I crawled to a nearby tree, using it for support as I pulled myself up. The pain in my injured foot was too much. It was like a jolt would shoot up my leg with just the slightest pressure applied to it. I could barely stand, but I had to keep moving. I hobbled along, using a stick as a makeshift crutch, trying to avoid putting weight on my twisted ankle, and at the same time looking for a safe place to rest for the night. I stumbled upon a small clearing, and I collapsed on the ground, exhausted. I could feel the cold dampness of the forest floor seeping through my clothes. But I was too tired to care. I just wanted to sleep, to forget my pain and my fear. I was hoping when I wake up, it would be daytime and my foot would feel better. Boy, was I wrong. It was almost impossible for me to sleep. The forest was alive with strange noises and eerie shadows. I could hear the rustling of leaves and the creaking of branches, as if the trees were whispering secrets to each other. I could see the flickering of shadows, as if something was moving in the darkness. I didn't know if it was a ghost or some wild animal circling around me. I couldn't let my thoughts run wild. I had to find a way out. But at the same time, I knew I was in no condition to be wandering in the dark and risk being injured again. I decided to stay put and wait till sunrise to continue my escape out the woods. As the night progressed, I lay there, injured and scared, surviving on nothing but my will to live. I wanted to scream for help, that maybe, just maybe, someone was out there in the woods at that time and they would hear me. But I also didn't want to give my position away to any predators that were lurking around that area. I tried to keep myself warm by huddling against a tree trunk and wrapping myself in leaves and moss. At daybreak, with little to no sleep, I forced myself up again by grabbing onto the tree I was huddled against through the night. I remember it still being very cold, but at least now I had light to see my surroundings. I kept hobbling along, not having an idea of where I was going. All I knew is I couldn't stay put. I had to find a way back to the trail. Then at least I would have a chance to come across some hikers. After several hours of roaming aimlessly in the forest at a snail's pace, I finally saw a glimmer of hope. From a distance, I could see a small building with a tower and a white truck parked alongside it. I stumbled upon a ranger station. It was like a tremendous weight was taken off my shoulders, and I hobbled as fast as I could toward the building. The ranger was shocked to see me. He knew I had been in a bad situation prior to arriving to the station. He quickly took me to the hospital, where I received medical attention for my injuries. It took me a long time to recover, both physically and mentally. I still have nightmares about that terrible ordeal, about being alone in the darkness and the fear and the pain I went through. But I also have a newfound respect for the power of nature and the resilience of the human spirit. I also have a greater appreciation of the little things I took for granted: a roof over my head, a nice warm bed, and the heating system in my home. That event changed me forever. I know that I will never forget the lessons I learned the time I almost died alone in the forest.